The concept of mental hardness has captivated humans throughout history. From ancient Stoic philosophers to modern Navy SEALs, the ability to maintain composure under pressure, persist through adversity, and maintain clarity when chaos surrounds us represents one of the most valuable capabilities we can develop. Mental hardness is not about becoming emotionless or suppressing our humanity. Rather, it's about building a resilient psychological framework that allows us to navigate life's inevitable challenges with grace, determination, and wisdom. Understanding mental hardness. Mental hardness, often called mental toughness or psychological resilience, refers to the capacity to maintain performance, focus, and emotional stability in the face of stress, adversity, or challenging circumstances. It's the psychological equivalent of physical conditioning, where repeated exposure to manageable stressors creates adaptation and growth. A hardened mind doesn't break under pressure because it has learned to bend, absorb impact, and recover quickly from setbacks. This quality manifests differently across individuals and situations. For an athlete, it might mean pushing through physical discomfort to achieve a personal best. For a business leader, it could involve making difficult decisions despite uncertainty. For someone dealing with personal loss, it means finding the strength to continue living meaningfully. The common thread is the ability to maintain agency and forward momentum when external circumstances would naturally cause most people to retreat, freeze, or give up. Mental hardness is not innate. While some people may have temperamental advantages that make resilience easier to develop, the fundamental capacities that comprise a hardened mind can be systematically cultivated through deliberate practice. This is both the challenge and the opportunity. Building mental hardness requires consistent effort, but anyone willing to do the work can develop these capabilities regardless of their starting point. The foundation: self-awareness and honest assessment. The journey toward mental hardness begins with brutal self-honesty. You cannot strengthen what you refuse to acknowledge as weak. This requires developing the capacity to observe yourself objectively, to notice patterns in your thinking and behavior without immediately defending or justifying them. When do you typically give up? What situations cause you to feel overwhelmed? What stories do you tell yourself when things become difficult? These questions demand honest answers. Self-awareness extends beyond identifying weaknesses to understanding your psychological operating system. Everyone has triggers that activate stress responses, cognitive biases that distort perception, and emotional patterns that influence decision-making. A hardened mind doesn't eliminate these human tendencies but recognizes them in real time and can work with or around them. This metacognitive capacity, the ability to think about your thinking, provides the foundation for all other mental hardening practices. Regular self-reflection practices such as journaling, meditation, or thoughtful conversation with trusted others can accelerate the development of self-awareness. The key is consistency and honesty. Set aside time regularly to examine your responses to recent challenges. What went well? Where did you struggle? What patterns are emerging? This ongoing audit of your mental state provides the raw data needed to guide your development efforts strategically. Reframing adversity: the power of perspective. One of the most transformative aspects of mental hardening involves changing your relationship with difficulty itself. Most people instinctively avoid discomfort, viewing challenges as obstacles to be eliminated. A hardened mind reframes adversity as necessary feedback, viewing difficult experiences as opportunities for growth rather than threats to be avoided. This shift in perspective fundamentally alters your psychological response to stress. The ancient Stoics understood this principle deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This isn't mere positive thinking or toxic optimism that denies genuine difficulty. Rather, it's a recognition that the qualities we most admire in ourselves and others are forged specifically through adversity. Courage cannot exist without fear. Perseverance has no meaning without obstacles. Compassion deepens through witnessing and experiencing suffering. Practicing this reframe requires catching yourself in moments of frustration or difficulty and deliberately asking, "What can this teach me? How can this make me stronger? What opportunity does this challenge present?" Initially, this will feel forced or artificial. Your emotional brain will resist, insisting that the difficulty is simply bad and should be avoided. But with repetition, this reframing becomes more automatic, gradually shifting your baseline response to adversity from resistance and avoidance to curiosity and engagement. Building discipline through small wins. Discipline forms the spine of mental hardness. It's the capacity to do what needs to be done regardless of how you feel in the moment. Contrary to popular belief, discipline is not something you either have or don't have. It's a skill developed through practice, starting small and building progressively. The person who has never exercised cannot suddenly run a marathon, and similarly, someone who has lived primarily by impulse and mood cannot suddenly manifest iron discipline. The path forward involves creating a series of small, manageable commitments and honoring them consistently. These commitments should be specific, measurable, and slightly uncomfortable. Perhaps you commit to making your bed every morning, exercising for 10 minutes daily, or reading for 15 minutes before allowing yourself screen time. The specific content matters less than the act of setting a standard and meeting it regardless of motivation or mood. Each time you follow through on a commitment when you don't feel like it, you're strengthening the neural pathways associated with self-regulation. You're proving to yourself that you can be trusted, that your word to yourself means something. This builds what psychologists call self-efficacy, the belief in your ability to accomplish what you set out to do. Over time, as these small disciplines become habits, you can gradually increase the difficulty, taking on larger challenges and longer-term commitments. Managing internal dialogue, the stories we tell ourselves. The ongoing narration in your mind, that constant stream of thoughts, judgments, and interpretations, profoundly influences your psychological resilience. Much of this internal dialogue operates automatically, shaped by past experiences, learned patterns, and unconscious beliefs. Mental hardening requires bringing this self-talk into awareness and, where necessary, challenging and restructuring it. Pay attention to the stories you tell yourself during difficulty. Do you catastrophize, assuming that one setback means total failure? Do you personalize challenges, believing that difficulties arise because you're fundamentally flawed? Do you engage in all-or-nothing thinking, seeing situations in absolute terms? These cognitive distortions are normal human tendencies, but they undermine resilience by amplifying stress and decreasing perceived agency. Developing a hardened mind involves learning to question these automatic thoughts. When you notice catastrophic thinking, ask yourself, what evidence supports this worst-case scenario? What are other possible outcomes? When you catch yourself generalizing from one failure, challenge it. This one thing didn't work out. What did I learn? What will I try differently next time? This practice, drawn from cognitive behavioral therapy, doesn't eliminate negative thoughts but changes your relationship with them. You become less identified with and reactive to every thought that passes through awareness. Physical practices for mental strength. The artificial separation between mind and body creates a false dichotomy. Your mental state profoundly influences your physical condition, and your physical state dramatically impacts your psychological resilience. Building mental hardness, therefore, requires attention to physical practices that support psychological strength. Regular cardiovascular exercise provides multiple benefits beyond physical fitness. It teaches you to work through discomfort, builds stress tolerance, and literally changes your brain chemistry, increasing neurotransmitters associated with mood regulation and stress management. Strength training offers similar psychological benefits while building a concrete sense of capacity and progress. The discipline required for consistent training directly transfers to other life areas. Sleep deserves special attention because inadequate rest dramatically undermines every aspect of mental performance and resilience. No amount of mental toughness practice can compensate for chronic sleep deprivation. Prioritizing 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep provides the foundation upon which all other practices rest. Similarly, nutrition impacts cognitive function, emotional regulation, and stress response. While you don't need a perfect diet, consistently fueling your body with adequate nutrients rather than relying primarily on processed foods provides tangible support for mental performance. Breath control practices offer a direct bridge between physical and mental states. Your breathing pattern both reflects and influences your nervous system activation. Rapid, shallow breathing signals threat and activate stress responses. Slow, deep, controlled breathing activates parasympathetic nervous system activity, promoting calm and clear thinking. Learning to control your breath in stressful situations provides a powerful tool for maintaining composure. Practices like box breathing, where you inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and hold for 4, can shift your physiological state in real time. Developing emotional regulation. Mental hardness doesn't mean suppressing emotions or pretending they don't exist. Emotions provide valuable information, and suppressing them typically backfires, leading to dysregulation and eventual explosion. Instead, a hardened mind involves developing the capacity to experience emotions fully while maintaining the ability to think clearly and act effectively. This begins with emotional literacy, the ability to accurately identify and name what you're feeling. Many people operate with a limited emotional vocabulary, categorizing all unpleasant feelings as stressed or angry. Developing more nuanced awareness allows for more sophisticated responses. Are you actually angry, or are you feeling disappointed, overwhelmed, or afraid? Each emotion provides different information and suggests different responses. Once you can identify emotions accurately, the next step involves creating space between feeling and action. Between stimulus and response lies a gap, and in that gap lies your power. When strong emotion arises, practice the stop technique. Stop what you're doing, take a breath, observe what's happening internally and externally, and proceed thoughtfully. This simple practice interrupts automatic reactivity and creates opportunity for choice. Understanding that emotions are temporary, like weather patterns passing through, also builds resilience. The intensity you feel right now will not last forever. Emotions naturally peak and then dissipate if you don't continually re-trigger them through rumination. Allowing yourself to feel difficult emotions while knowing they will pass reduces their power over you. You develop confidence that you can weather emotional storms without being destroyed by them. Building social resilience. While much discussion of mental toughness focuses on individual capacity, humans are fundamentally social creatures, and our resilience is significantly influenced by our relationships and social context. Building a hardened mind includes developing the social skills and relationships that provide support during difficult times, while also cultivating the independence to function effectively even when external support is limited. Cultivate relationships with people who challenge you to grow rather than enabling comfort-seeking or victim narratives. Seek out friends, mentors, or communities that embody the qualities you're working to develop. Their example and expectations will pull you forward. At the same time, Learn to set boundaries with people who consistently drain your energy or undermine your development efforts. This isn't about surrounding yourself only with positivity, but about being intentional regarding whose voices you allow to influence you. Vulnerability, counterintuitively, strengthens rather than weakens mental resilience. The capacity to acknowledge struggles, ask for help when needed, and be honest about limitations prevents the brittle pride that shatters under pressure. This doesn't mean constantly complaining or seeking rescue, but rather maintaining realistic self-assessment and being willing to leverage available resources when appropriate. True strength includes knowing when to bear weight alone and when to share the load. Maintaining perspective through purpose. Perhaps the most powerful factor in mental hardness is having a clear sense of purpose that extends beyond immediate comfort or convenience. When you're connected to values and goals that matter deeply, you naturally access greater resilience because short-term discomfort becomes acceptable in service of long-term meaning. This requires identifying what genuinely matters to you beyond social conditioning or external expectations. What do you want to stand for? What impact do you want to have? What would you regret not doing or becoming? These questions don't have quick or easy answers, but wrestling with them over time clarifies the why that makes the how bearable. Viktor Frankl, who survived Nazi concentration camps, observed that those who maintained a sense of meaning or purpose had significantly better survival rates than those who lost their reason for enduring. Connecting daily actions to larger purpose transforms discipline from willpower depletion to meaningful expression. When exercise isn't just about temporary discomfort, but about maintaining the vitality needed to contribute to your family or community, it becomes easier to push through resistance. When learning difficult skills isn't just frustrating but necessary for achieving meaningful work, persistence feels less like suffering and more like investment. The long game. Consistency over intensity. Building mental hardness is not a sprint or even a marathon. It's an ongoing practice without a finish line. The most common mistake people make is approaching mental toughness development with excessive intensity, going all in for a few weeks before burning out and abandoning the effort entirely. This creates a boom and bust cycle that actually undermines the very qualities you're trying to develop. Sustainable mental hardening prioritizes consistency over intensity. Better to practice cold showers 3 times a week for years than to force yourself through daily ice baths for 3 weeks before quitting. Better to maintain a modest but regular meditation practice than to attempt hour-long sessions that you can't sustain. The transformative power comes from repeated practice over time, not from heroic but unsustainable efforts. This requires patience and humility. Progress in mental development is often invisible in the short term, becoming apparent only when you look back over months or years and realize you're handling situations that once would have overwhelmed you. Trust the process. Show up consistently. Do the work even when you can't see immediate results. The compound interest of consistent practice eventually produces remarkable returns. Conclusion. The hardened mind in service. Ultimately, developing mental hardness is not about becoming invulnerable or emotionless. It's about building the psychological capacity to engage fully with life, to pursue meaningful goals despite obstacles, to maintain agency during difficulty, and to recover quickly from setbacks. A truly hardened mind combines strength with flexibility, determination with wisdom, and resilience with compassion. As you develop these capacities, remember that mental toughness is a tool, not an end in itself. The question is always, what are you building this strength for? The most powerful application of mental hardness is in service of something beyond yourself, whether that's your family, your community, your work, or your principles. Mental strength allows you to show up consistently for what matters, to persevere when easier paths present themselves, and to maintain integrity when circumstances test your commitment. The journey of hardening your mind is simultaneously humbling and empowering. You'll discover depths of capability you didn't know existed while also confronting limitations and continuing growth opportunities. Welcome both discoveries. Stay curious, remain patient with yourself, maintain consistency in your practices, and keep your attention on what truly matters. Over time, you'll find that the challenges that once seemed insurmountable become manageable, the emotional storms that once derailed you become passing weather, and the discipline that once required exhausting effort becomes your natural way of being. This is the promise and the path of the hardened mind.